Eden Koz here with Just Be, and we are about to take a spiritual boom. We are at an unprecedented time in human history where we are transitioning from 3D to 5D within the great spiritual awakening. This video and audio podcast is the place for you to find your truth beyond politics, your sovereignty, your voice. Let's kick up your vibration now. By the way, each episode ends with the Just Be practice to do just that. And as we begin the show, just to know a little bit more about me, I'm a soul realignment specialist, meditation master, and dimensional healer. Learn more, and there's merch also at EdenJustBe.com. Let's get this party started. All right, let me connect to you guys, connect to all that is before we begin. Okay. Eden with Just Be Spiritual Boom in association with the Grassroots Warrior Network. Hello, my only reoccurring guests every 6 to 7 weeks. Welcome back, interstellar communicators, Pia and Cullen. Hey, you two.
Hey, Eden.
Glad to be here.
Glad to have you as always. And we talked a little bit before we started, so we're going to go into more today, really talking about the really good parts of the Great Awakening. And it's all good. Yeah, there have been some tremendous things that a lot of us have had to go through during it. So we're going to really merge into the sweetness. Okay. And before I read y'all's bio, we will, as always, end with additional words of enlightenment and encouragement from their Pleiadian group connection, Laarkmaa. How long have y'all been connected to them? I know we've talked about it before. But I don't know if we've talked about the longevity. It's been a long time.
Well, joking aside, I could answer that by saying forever.
We have been with them
True.
through many parallel lives. They worked with us, unbeknownst to us at the time. We could feel a presence, but they worked with us as children. And we started doing public work with them about 2 decades ago.
Okay.
So they've been family members for a really long time.
Okay. Yet about, let's say, 20 years openly connecting. Okay. Nice. Okay. And before I get to bios, I want to, I always bring up my merch. I love this one. This t-shirt says Galactic Human. And I love it because my daughter drew it. So it means so much to me also. All right. So all my merch is EdenJustBe.com. Some controversial, some sweet, it's all high vibe. All high vibe. Okay, bio. Husband and wife, PhD's, Pia Smith Orleane and Cullen Baird Smith, communicators to the stars, writers, visionaries, intuitives. Pia and I always like to bring a nod to the human part of it. Pia being a former psychologist and Cullen being trained in anthropology and archaeology. Together, and it has to be both of them, they bring planetary wisdom from the stars, whom they've always been connected to, from a group of Pleiadian light beings known as Pia says it, Laarkmaa. They have offered decades of extraordinary work and commitment to Earth and humanity, and they are not stopping. And again, so blessed and grateful that you guys come here every time. And we always have so much fun with our organic conversations. So I want to start off with basically what y'all told me when we started. What's been happening to you guys? In terms of we are just boom right now. How are y'all booming? Take a sip.
Yeah, well, I will just insert something before Pia starts to speak. Often, many people talk about the gloom and doom, the hardness, the obstacles, the hardships, the challenges, and I think it's equally important, if not more important, maybe to begin to start talking about the pluses, the positives, the things that are changing in realistic, helpful, hopeful ways. So I think we can talk today about lots of good things that are happening that are hopefully educational and hopefully fun.
I agree.
With that, I would say, when you ask what's been happening, I would say more telepathy, more visions, more waves of trust and knowing that everything's unfolding as it should, more communication without words. that, telepathy can be long distance or short distance, but we're experiencing both. Lots and lots of positive things, more visions. I think I said that. When the last big solar storms hit the week of, I think May 11th was the day that 2 huge CMEs hit the planet. And then there were the ricocheting effects of several others after that. Those solar storms and that high radiation knocked out my voice. And it was gone for 3 weeks. No voice, 3 weeks. So that's not a bad thing. It was a different thing because we were doing silent retreats for 3 weeks at a time, the 2 of us together. But these are always scoped out and planned for what we're going to do. This time I was emailing people like mad saying, I'm sorry, we need to reschedule a session. I'll let you know when I can speak again. So that was a bit different. But
okay, so let me go into this for a second. Everybody listening and watching, we're not talking 3 days. We're talking 3 weeks, almost a month of not being able to verbalize. I mean, that's some big stuff.
Yep. So we got more telepathic. Cullen has always been able to read me pretty well, but I could pick up a pen and start to write something down. He said, oh, you want to do so-and-so, or you need this, or oh, you want that, instantly. He could start to say something to me, and it was like I already heard it before he voiced it. So without the communication verbally going back and forth, we actually tremendously enhanced our telepathic communication. Also, the visions we've been having increased, and our level of service in the world was amplified. You want to talk about that?
Well, Pia and I have always been able to know generally in advance when someone's going to transition, to pass over, to move into their next incarnation. It's happened to us. It started with Pia when she was a relatively young person, I think nine years old. Yeah. I was doing it as probably that age or in my teenage years. And this has carried on all of our lives.
Okay. When y'all were younger, was that scary, or just even at that age, you could really accept it, or knowing that y'all have always known a lot since you were younger, but knowing that kind of someone's going to die when you're at that age, is that a little bit, I
think there's a level of acceptance that doesn't even allow fear in.
Mm-hmm.
And Cullen can speak about his, but I was introduced to it by my grandfather. My parents had yanked me out of bed in the middle of the night, driven 2 hours to get to where my grandparents lived, deposited me with one of my parents' grandmothers, and
Mm-hmm.
took off to the other grandmother and grandfather because that grandfather was sick. They didn't tell me anything except we got to go. Nothing.
Oh my
so
gosh.
They just, my grandmother gave me things that she thought would make me feel better and put me to bed. And I went to bed and I went to sleep. And my grandfather, who was in the process of dying, came into the bedroom, and he always had a special name for me. And he called me by my special name. And I immediately knew he was there. And he said, look, I'm going into a different place. I'm going to a different realm. Everybody's going to think I'm dead. Your mother's going to cry a lot. She's going to be really upset, but I'm still here. I'm just in a different place. You're going to have to help your mother. And that was the opening for me. So I wasn't sad at all. It was like, this is amazing. This goes with what I've thought or what I've been seeing. So I was introduced to it like that. Throughout the years, I think I was maybe 10 or 11, somewhere after that, where I had a man who was a neighbor that I loved. He and his wife, they were like grandparents to me. And he appeared to me one night in my sleep and said, you're going to have to help Vera because I'm leaving to go to the special place and she's going to be upset. And I went, okay. So I did. He was gone 3 days later.
Okay, so how do you do that? Because I go to funerals and everybody's really sad, and I'm so upbeat. I have to calm myself down a lot. So how did you help when everybody is like, death is sad and horrible? And yeah, so what did you do, and how did they accept that from you?
Just exude love. That's all you need to do. Though I do have a funny story. What were you going to say first?
Well, no, go ahead.
My funny story is about my best friend in high school and we were friends throughout. Now, we were grown-ups in our 40s, and her husband died unexpectedly from a heart attack. And she called me and said, "You've got to help me. I don't know how to do this funeral. You've got to come help me pick out what he's going to be put in the casket in." And I went, "Okay." So I went to the house and I was sitting on the bed, and she was hysterical and crying and crying. She was pulling out a blue shirt and a white shirt and going, "I don't know what to put him in." All of a sudden he appeared in the room, and I said, "Trisha, you may not think I'm being serious, but I'm being very serious here. Bob is here with me. He said to tell you, put him in the blue shirt because the white one makes him look dead."
Love that.
Immediately burst out laughing and said, "He really is here, isn't he?" And I said, "Yes, he is." So you respond in the way that you are contacted. If you're only responding to the people who are grieving, you just exude love. If one of their loved ones happens to come through, as they do to Cullen and me, you pass along the messages. We just did that for a dear friend in Canada about 6 or 8 months ago, maybe a year after his wife of many years passed. She came to give him a message. It happens as a daily part of life. I don't look at it any differently than picking up the phone and going, "Oh, so-and-so just called." It's the same thing. They're just in a different place, and I can't see them the way I would if in the same room.
Got it. And I'm so glad that Trisha basically said, "Oh, that's yes," and she put him in the blue shirt. Love that.
That's a pretty good, very humorous story.
It is good.
A lot of people transitioning don't have such a good time, and they're confused. They need help. They need guidance, and it's just a natural thing for us. I have one story that I would also like to share.
Yeah.
I knew someone was about to transition, a friend, and I couldn't be there. I often would go to be with people. When I was in my early 30s, I was absolutely, completely interested in the death and dying process. And I went to lots of seminars. I worked with some very wonderful, some very famous people around the world. And I spent a lot of time with dying people, and it was just incredibly important to me. I learned a tremendous amount. Separate from that, I couldn't be with someone for some reason. I don't remember why, but I wasn't able to fly to this person. And when this person transitioned, I was in my home alone. And at the very moment of this person's transition, an energy came into my house, and it was like a whirlwind. It was like a ball of fire, and it was moving around the house at breakneck speed, going from room to room. And I could actually see or feel the flashing of light. That's why I call it a ball of energy, or a ball of fire. And this energy just zoomed around. And I mean, it just made me giggle. It made me laugh because I knew who it was. I knew what was happening. And because I was close with this person, he knew that we had to be together when this happened. So he came to me instead of me going to him. And it lasted for maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but it was an amazing experience because I'm getting goosebumps just talking about this again. I know who it was. I knew why it was. I knew how it was. And it was just a completely amazing experience. It was one of those things that we call a peak human experience. It was fantastic.
Sometimes what we have to do if someone comes to us and they're in the process, but they haven't crossed over yet, is just reassure them that they're not losing anything. They're just transitioning into another form of and their consciousness is very much alive. And yes, we can see you. Yes, we can hear you. Yes, you're still here. Yes, you're still loved. Yes, you're still important. All you have to do is let go of what you believe is who you are and just enjoy this. Sometimes we just have to have a conversation, help them understand where they are and what they're doing.
So do you mind giving your explanation of death? And I know y'all talked about it, but let's specify it. So death
Sure.
is transitioning, going to a special place. Give me more info.
Well, the way P and I look at death, which is a complete misnomer in the first place, we've all had bad training forever, ever.
I love that description. Let me laugh for a moment. Bad training. That's a very kind way to put it. All right.
That's something that I've used in writing and lecturing forever. I often talk about bad training because we've all had it. Death is simply the change of form. That's all it is. Consciousness is consciousness. Consciousness doesn't change. It develops as we mature spiritually, but it doesn't stop or start like a human body starts at conception. If we choose to die out of our bodies to go on to our next experience, we lose our bodies. The consciousness just keeps going. And I can tell you and your listeners that in my experience of working with death and dying, which I did for about a decade, I had the most interesting experiences being at the bedside of people who were in that state of being here, talking to me, and then looking as though they were falling asleep. And they were gone for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour. And then they'd come back and they'd become coherent again. And what they were doing was just shifting dimensions. They were leaving their body and they were going to what I call their next destination or their next assignment. And experiencing this with people was incredible because people would come back and say the most interesting things. Anybody who's been at the deathbed of a friend or a loved one knows that people go in and out. You know, sometimes they look like they're here, their eyes are open. Sometimes their eyes are closed, they're not speaking. And then 10 minutes later, you're having a conversation with them again. Sometimes some of these people would say things like, oh my God, I was so egotistical. I thought I was so spiritual. I thought I had all the answers. And my God, when I'm in this other place, I realize I have a lot more to learn. I'm not finished. I have more time to evolve. There's so much more I can understand about the universe or the cosmos. It was incredible. I had that experience dozens and dozens and dozens of times.
And I have to mention this to you, Colin. Sorry to interrupt, but right when you were talking, I had a bird fly so close to my window right here. Like I see birds out there, but never this close. All right. So yeah, that was interesting. Please proceed. No.
Connected. I'm sure that was a synchronistic, energetic experience.
I've never had that happen like that before. All right.
We can tell you stories about birds that are not hummingbirds that hover in front of us through the window, birds that do not hover, but they do, and they talk to it. Anyway.
Lots of bird stories. That's on another topic.
Yeah, that's a different topic. Anyway, the whole idea of death is so misunderstood because nobody ever dies. All we do is change form. We either immediately go to another dimension, another realm, and we're not the same personality that we were as we left when our consciousness moved out of our bodies, or we can actually be a physical being somewhere else that we pre-planned it to evolve into. But there's no cessation, there's no stoppage of consciousness. It rolls on forever. And so I don't know what Pia is going to say right now, but our concept of death is simply the best way to say it. It's a revolving door. All we do is go from one dimension to the next, and our body doesn't go with us unless we ascend with our body, which is also possible. But consciousness is the key to who we are, and consciousness never dies.
So Cullen took part of one of my terms that I used to answer the question, but go ahead, Eden. What did you
Well,
want to say?
yeah, ascending with the body. What does that mean?
That's a whole different thing.
Okay.
Let's go through what death is, and then we'll come back to ascending with the body. Okay?
All right. Yes.
So when I was in my 30s, I was in a car wreck. Car hit me from the behind, broke my neck. I was in the hospital. Long story short, the physician treating me over-medicated me, and I died. I was brain dead, clinically brain dead for 7 minutes. They pumped my stomach, they cardiac, whatever you call it, CPR'd me. They brought me back after 7 minutes, but they thought I'd be an imbecile because 7 minutes brain dead, they thought I was gone. But I came back. When 2012 and Venus was in a certain position in relationship to Earth, I died a second time. This time I told Cullen, take me to the hospital. I spent hours, literally, getting everything lined up because I knew I was going. He kept saying, come eat dinner, come to bed. And I kept saying, not yet, not yet. I got everything lined up that he'd have to take care of that I usually did because I knew I was going.
Mm-hmm.
He took me to the hospital twice. After multiple tests, multiple interventions, they sent me home with him and said, make her comfortable, she's dying. And I did. And I was gone this time for, Cullen tells me, I don't remember, he says 10 days, somewhere in there.
10 days to 2 weeks.
10 days to 2 weeks where I was, from my experience, I was there, but I couldn't let anybody in how big is this space?
The depth of your aura.
Yeah, how big?
Oh, 2 feet, 3 feet.
3 feet of me. I couldn't let him even come moisten my lips because it was painful, like my body was being stabbed. It was painful for anybody to get close to me within 3 feet. That's the only perception I had this entire time. I knew he was there, but he couldn't get any closer. And then when I came back, which he waited on me to do because he was in touch and he knew I wasn't gone for good.
I didn't call the authorities. I didn't call for an ambulance. I didn't call for a coroner or a doctor. I just thought, okay, she's going to be comatose for some time. That's okay. Let's just let this happen. And she indeed was lifeless for a week plus.
When I that's extreme. Like losing your voice for 3 weeks, that's nothing compared to this. Seriously, I mean, okay, I want to go into this for just a second. Cullen, you just being there, and I'm assuming you didn't eat or drink in that time.
She didn't get out of bed. She didn't move.
Didn't do it, like a totally lifeless, no food, no nothing form. All right, Cullen, okay, and knowing with your intuition that everything's going to be okay, but yet having this lifeless body with you, what'd you do? You just did?
I guess here's the simple answer to that. We have an agreement that we're both going to go together, whether that's dying out of our bodies or ascending with our bodies. We're going to do that as a team, a couple. And knowing that, I knew that she wasn't going to leave me. So
all right, it's not time yet. We're supposed to do this together, so stop it. Okay.
Pretty much that's it.
So she was inert, comatose, but she left out something. She was aware of other things.
Well, what I was going to say was that's all I was aware of in this realm was the 3 feet.
Oh, okay.
But when I came back, I began telling Cullen about the things I was aware of in other worlds. In other words, I brought back 2 really important things. First of all, I was totally surrounded by rainbows. The whole time I was there, vibrant rainbows everywhere I looked. And the other thing I came back was this profound knowing that there is absolutely no difference between pleasure and pain. We in human terms try to avoid pain at all cost and seek pleasure at any cost, diametric opposites. But really, the only thing that makes the difference is our perception of our sensations. And I came back with that knowledge, that wisdom, which I use when I have a backache or get my teeth worked on without anesthesia. It doesn't matter. I just do it because I know there's no difference between pleasure and pain. I just turn around my perception. that's one of the things that I know I was supposed to help people understand. So many, many other things, but those are the two key ones. You asked, we also have a third death experience where both of us died, but it was a short term. It was like, I don't know, an hour or so, each of us succinctly, one after the other, and then coming back in together unconsciously. But we were watching each other when each one took their turn. And when we came back together again, we could compare notes. So you asked what my view of death is. I have always said death is just a swinging door. And for me, it does swing back and forth. I'm here in this form, I'm there in that form. I'm here in this form, I'm there in that form. I'm just as much alive in either one. So we have absolutely no fear of death because there's nothing to fear. We just know.
It's sort of the way we look at it. It's sort of like a graduation, actually. Yeah. It's like, okay, we were here. We learned our lessons. We learned our challenges. We did what we did, and it's time to graduate now to go to the next step. And so it's actually a celebration rather than a tragedy.
But so far, every time I go through that door, there's a big neon sign that says "not yet." And I stay for a while, and then I come back. So.
Yeah, I know we're taking a lot of time on this subject, but I want to just say two funny things about this. Pia's experience, well, it was both of our experiences, actually. When she came back, I don't know how many hours. I think it was the very same day. It wasn't the next day. I think it was the same day.
She started spoon feeding me water. I remember that, getting water, hydrating me.
Okay, so this is the long term, when it happened to you long term, Pia. Is that right? Okay.
He also asked me what I wanted.
Okay. She wanted two things. She said, you have to take me to a women's clothing store down. We were living in a small village, a small town. And she said, there's a rainbow scarf at this women's clothing store. You need to take me there.
There's only one.
There's only one.
I have to go ahead.
I have to have it.
I've never seen this before. This was something that just came to me that I saw while I was on the other side, that this was my badge of remembrance.
So and I said, okay. And she goes, I want to go with you. And I said, no, you can't go. She said, get me into the car, please. I got her into the car. I drove her to this store, which is just down the hill from us. And we go in and we walk in.
You went in, I stayed in the car.
We had been in this store before. Actually, they made a special dress for Pia once for a special presentation that we were doing. So we knew the people that owned the store, the designer. I go in and I say, is there a rainbow scarf in here? And she looked at me and she goes, yeah, we have one, just one. I said,
specially made by somebody.
Yeah, a local artist, a really cool local artist, weaver. I said, where is it? She showed me. I said, I need it right now. I hastily paid her, didn't tell her any of the story. I went out and put it around Pia's neck. I mean, that was a very interesting experience. But before that, when she first came back to consciousness, she said, I want cookies. and she wanted a cookie that we had discovered maybe 6 months earlier, a year earlier, from a different state, homemade, a commercial cookie made by a homemade kind of bakery. It was gluten-free, sugar-free. It was a completely amazing natural cookie.
Which is the only kind of cookies we ever eat. We don't eat sugar or gluten.
And so I tried to get a hold of the bakery. This was 3 states away.
Oh.
A place we used to live. I couldn't get the person on the phone. And I called a friend who lived very close to this bakery. And I said, look, you got to do me this really big favor. Get in your car. Don't take no for an answer. Go to the bakery, go to the warehouse, get some cookies and send them to me overnight. And
Pia needs cookies.
This friend, we kept talking back and forth on the phone, and she said, I can't get a hold of the woman. I said, go there, do something. I mean, I was desperate. And at this point, I was feeding Pia baby food applesauce. And our friend finally got a hold of the baker. And the baker heard this story and she goes, no problem. She said, you don't have to have your friend buy them. I will FedEx them to you myself. And she did. Pia got to eat a big box of cookies.
I think when I was on the other side, I forgot that here on this side, there is such a thing as time and distance.
Oh my gosh, but that happened. Hey, I want to ask, as we always do, going and through these connections, the inversion of the rainbow right now, what would you say to that?
Well, it's not a true rainbow. It's geochemical engineering messing with our atmosphere in combination with the sun doing different things as we move into a solar maximum at the level we've never experienced a solar maximum. So we've got man-made interference, we've got the sun doing a new thing, and together the combination is causing auroras to appear in the sky far more southerly than where they have been before, and luminescent clouds that have a rainbow shimmery type coloring around them or in them, but they're not necessarily rainbows. So I think that's what we're looking at. I
think it's one of the changes that we're experiencing that we're simply not used to. There's a term for a rainbow that's circular, that sometimes can be seen around the sun. P and I call it a sundog. We grew up with that term. Many people have never seen a sundog. They don't know, when we explain to them that you can actually see a circular rainbow instead of an arched rainbow.
And if you miss the top of it, if it's too bright to look at the top, it does look like an inverted rainbow. But that's been going on for
long time.
Long time.
But more and more people, I guess through the change of consciousness or becoming more sensitive, are seeing rainbow-like structures that either have never been seen before, maybe they did exist or they didn't, but because we're changing as humans, we're able to see things that we've never been able to actually see before physically. So I think the rainbow changes have to do with that kind of difference.
Okay, so what about also the rainbow being used for a specific community that's kind of being pushed on everybody? What do y'all think of that? And I can get more specific on that if need be.
Political stuff that's just, we don't pay any attention to it because there have been rainbow tribes and rainbow this and rainbow that using the terminology for a long, long time. Since the 60s, maybe. That's been around for a long time. So we don't look at the specific political association with the rainbow. We tend to rely more upon nature's definition of a rainbow.
Nice.
And the experience of cosmic rainbows that I had.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know what you're referring to, and about 40 years ago, I saw a really cool rainbow decal, and I put it in the back window of my pickup truck. And I was somewhere, I don't know if I was at a traffic light or at a parking lot, and someone walked up to me and said, "Oh, you're gay." And I said, "What? Excuse me?" And the person said, "Well, you're displaying a rainbow on your back window." And I said, again, "What?" And I didn't know, even way back then, that there could be another meaning for a rainbow in the developing gay community, that it was a symbol for all of the colors, meaning all of the different ways we can be. You know, humans can be whatever they want. We don't have to be specifically what we're told we're supposed to be. And that's always been a really humorous thing for me, because that took me by total surprise. I had no idea that by putting a rainbow decal in my car, someone would think that I'm part of a gay community. It was really interesting.
Well, there you go.
Well, we've spent a tremendous amount of time talking about death.
And we didn't answer one of your last questions. We said we'd postpone it, and that's ascension with the body.
Yes.
people have to let go of the idea that this exact same physical body is going to go with them when they go through this swinging door. Yes, you can ascend with the body, but it's when you make a conscious connection with your light body, merge it with that consciousness here in this body, and you create what we call a rainbow body, which is the body of a lighter or more subtle variety of vibration, not as dense as this one, but patterned off of what our light body is. That's ascension with the body. That being said, the physical body right now of those who are on the path of ascending with the body, it's denser because it's carbon-based, and we're moving into a crystalline-based form. And therefore, there's a lot of feeling of breaking apart, breaking down, discomfort that goes along with what we're doing in this transition. Perhaps like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. I've never been a caterpillar, I don't know, but I would assume it may be something like that. We have a pretty interesting YouTube video that Laarkmaa gave to the world last Sunday. It's on Pleiadian Laarkmaa YouTube, the last Sunday's date, but it talks about the 7 signs of ascension. So you can see all the things we've been talking about in your show. They talk about the visions, the new experiences, the telepathy. They talk about the symptoms in the physical body. They talk about all that step by step. Here's step 1. Here's sign. Here's sign 1. Here's the second sign. So if you're having any of those signs, instead of asking the question, when am I going to ascend? Start saying, oh, I'm ascending, because it's a process. It's not a moment in time that something happens.
Many people ask Laarkmaa, well, when is the ascension process going to start? And people have been asking that question of Laarkmaa for years. I mean, not just yesterday, not last year, but for years. And their answer always remains the same. Basically what Pia just said, it is a process and you've been in it for a long time.
And the process is, like, I imagine for myself when I was going through a couple of weeks of major pain and physical pain, that it's not like if you woke up and the next day you're ascended, I wouldn't be ready for that. Like, it has to be within this slower period of time so I can break through some things, so I can settle into things, so I can see more and then more and then more. Because if I also woke up one day and saw too much, that would be too much for me to handle. So it's beautiful how it works with me, and it works with you guys for what you're ready for and what's going to be next. Okay. Did that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It makes sense. We're not ready, I don't think, as a species, to change our form overnight. I don't think the body is basically capable of just going from, as Pia said, a carbon-based structure to a completely crystalline-based structure and go from A to Z in a day. I don't think our bodies could handle that. I think we would implode or blow up. I don't think we could do it. And ascension's been going on for some people for a long time. I mean, there are many people throughout time. Mostly people think of this as Indian saints that left their bodies consciously, and their body just either evaporated or disappeared. There are modern day Indian saints. Sai Baba is an example of that. He left and he knew where he was going. He told his devotees, I know who I will be in my next incarnation. And when he was finished with his job here, he moved on. And there are other, I mean, I don't want to go on and on about this, but there are other examples of people in our lifetime who have moved on.
Let's also take a minute to define crystalline body, because people don't understand what that means. We are water-based. We are water-based humans, and we are grounded to the earth as water goes into one of its phases that we call bone. It turns solid in bone, but it's still water, like frozen water. Crystalline bodies are the water-based with the light that we are and the light coming in, causing crystalline appearance.
But not
It's a
physical.
combination of light and water together, so that our essence becomes a shining reflection of who we are. So we lose the physical third dimensional concept of this physicality with water, and we move into the more etheric realm of water, which we might call gas. The form is different, but sparkling out the light that we are.
So many people are confused about this when people talk about becoming crystalline in nature. We're not talking about a big hunky crystal that you go to the gem store to buy. We're not talking about solid crystal rocks.
And we're not going to turn into a rose quartz crystal.
We're not going to turn into a
Dang it. Dang it.
We're
I was
not,
wanting to turn into rose quartz. Got it.
we're not going to turn into a solid crystal or a group of solid crystals. It's liquid. It's not solid.
Nice. Within that, can we transition to, within all of this, DNA activation, getting done in essence with karma, healing trauma, generational traumas, like, and I see that all going on with my clients as well. Like, it is just so ramped up now, and it's so good and so juicy. All right, what are y'all seeing with that?
Well, the same thing with one exception. We don't deal with generational trauma because from our perspective and what we have learned from broader perspectives than ours, you're not your genetics. You never are.
Yes.
You never. So there is no such thing as generational trauma. But if you believe that you're clearing up trauma from somebody, your mother, your grandmother, whatever, it's your own stuff, but you're putting it on them, saying, well, I don't have to take responsibility for this, even though it's mine. I have to just clean up their stuff, their mess. That's not the way we see it. We see that looking at what you need to clean up is a personal action for your own personal lifetimes, all of them, parallel, not whatever your mother, your grandmother, your grandfather, whatever may have gone through. So we don't deal with generational trauma. We deal more directly with the parallel aspects of you. What have you experienced? But other than that, go ahead.
Well, what Pia is saying, I believe, is we think trauma comes from this lifetime's childhood or parallel experiences we've had, not inherited. I mean, we're very outspoken about this. Many people disagree with what we're saying right now. We don't really agree with curing or changing ancestral trauma or experiences. We believe that it is personal and that we created it, we lived through it. It's our experience. One thing about reincarnation that I think is totally misunderstood, when someone is born into a tribe or a religion, most people believe that they are living generationally what their parents believed religiously or philosophically, or their grandparents back to Adam and Eve. We have a completely different take on this. We think each person agrees to incarnate into a specific experience. Say, I'll give you an example. I have a friend who's a Native American, Canadian and American, two tribes, one on the Canadian side and one on the American side. She believes that she has to do certain things because ancestrally her ancestors did these things, whether that was dietary, ceremonially, societally, what have you. She believes that she has to carry on those traditions because she's connected to all of these ancestors. And what P and I understand from our point of view is that each person incarnates into a certain situation to learn lessons but it doesn't mean that they're connected necessarily to a long line of this Indian tribe, that Indian tribe, this religion, that religion. They're just getting the experience of being part of that tribe or that experience for that one lifetime, that one experience. And people get mad at us when we talk like this, but we think that reincarnation is completely different than what we've been taught about lineage.
So that basically says that we believe that it's the situation that causes the trauma, not the genetics. And if you will, as a psychologist, I can tell you from having worked with many clients, when they start talking about their generational trauma, and I start asking questions, everything that comes from their remembrance is stories they've been told. So they've integrated those stories as if it's part of who they are, and it isn't part of who they are. They're here, as Cullen said, to have an experience in this lifetime, in this circumstance, for some particular reason, not to clear up something that somebody else has told them stories about.
It's not our job to clean up other people's messes.
Right. Exactly.
Well, let me interject too, talking about bad training, that we are trained to believe that, my family has heart attacks, so I have a higher propensity for that. And from where I stand, sometimes if you buy into that and you believe that, then you do have a propensity for that. But this is all, again, about victimhood, about, breaking that completely as well and moving out of that you are a sovereign being, regardless of your past, regardless of your family.
You're absolutely right, Eden. And the reality of it is, for those naysayers who want to say, no, you're wrong, those who would like to look at it, you're born with the propensity for moving in that direction. But that does not set your path and go, you're going to have attacks, you're going to have breast cancer, you're going to have Alzheimer's. You're just born with a propensity towards it. And if you choose to respond differently in the energies than the environment around you, you will not exhibit the genetics of what you have been told you will. It just won't happen because the thought power is stronger.
It basically comes down, from our point of view, about fear. If I'm afraid because I've been told my grandfather and my father both died of heart attacks, I possibly going to die from a heart attack. The fear factor can cause all by itself that propensity, that possibility to come forward. If someone's very free thinking, if someone's very open to the idea that they are sovereign, as you just said, and that they can create their own experience, if there's no fear there, I will pretty much guarantee that person will never have a heart attack.
So wherever the viewers or listeners are, the end of this, basically, whether you agree with it or not, is that you are a sovereign being. And in this life, you can create whatever you want and be whoever you want to be. That all of these things from your past or from your lineage or whatever, they do not define you unless you let them define you. Right?
That's it.
I have a perfect example of this. I have a friend whose mother was diagnosed with breast cancer at age 45. This woman has an older sister, and that older sister was afraid that she would develop breast cancer by the time she was 45. Guess what?
What?
She developed breast cancer at 45, just like her mother. When the sister that I know approached 45, her fear level was, oh no, my mother and my sister both got breast cancer at age 45. I'm afraid I'm going to. Guess what? She developed breast cancer at 45.
Ooh.
That is a pure example of what we're talking about right now. The daughter, the eldest daughter, did not have to have the experience of breast cancer, except that the fear caused it to happen. The second sister, watching the mother and the older sister, developed a fear so strong that she was afraid that it would happen, and it did.
Laarkmaa, our Pleiadian friends, interstellar friends, tell us that fear is the basic cause of all cancer.
All disease.
Yes.
Yeah, and if we broad stroke cancer outside of physical and turn that into negative things that happen in the world, those being a cancer, yes, yes, indeed. Shall we transition to Laarkmaa? Is it time?
Sure.
All right. Y'all ready? Just be practice.
Hello, dear ones. We are Laarkmaa. We are here to support you on your evolutionary journey. How can we help you today? Do you have questions?
Yes. Okay, hopefully I word this right too. Just I'm feeling a speeding up of beautiful, good energy and seeing within my clients that are awake and transitioning, synchronicities happening more than ever, like really yummy things if they're open and willing. What would you say to that?
Fine, yummy.
So, for example, one of my clients is really seeing her worth.
Let us know what the word means.
Okay, yummy. Good, pleasant, beautiful, wonderful.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would say synchronicity is a sign, a symbol that you're on the path and that you're following your intuition because you're listening more deeply. Absolutely, that is increasing because people are dropping away from their level of fear and moving more into the essence of trust. As you begin to trust the flow of occurrences, the flow of what is happening within your experience, you begin to have more synchronistic experiences. As you also become grateful rather than complaining about whatever is happening, recognizing that each experience brings you a gift, each experience helps you to grow, each experience is an opportunity for evolution. And as you become more grateful for the experiences, you also increase the opportunity for synchronicity. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. It sure does.
It is
Tell
increasing. There is no such thing as time. And those of you who are on this path of learning, evolution, and growth are beginning to understand that time is an illusion. So therefore, when you step outside of time and listen instead with deep listening from your heart to what your intuition is telling you, things just happen in synchronicities.
Nice. Okay. I know that Pia and Cullen talked about death. Can you talk about it too? How do you see it? Or y'all see it?
We see death as a man-made term to invoke more fear and to cause people to cling to what they believe or what they feel is real. It is not real to believe that death is something that is inevitable. That's just a concept. You have a saying that there's only two things in life you can count on, death and taxes. Well, we don't know about governments. That seems to be accurate. However, death is not necessarily something that will happen. You have the opportunity to ascend without going through the loss of your physical body as if you yourself are extinguished. Most people who define death consider that the person that dies no longer exists. They may view their spirit as living in another place, but they do not really recognize the truth and the expansive quality that consciousness is always alive, never dies, and only expands to become more and gets more interested in other directions it is going. So we see death as a misnomer, something that is made up backwards. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it does.
There
Interesting.
are ways to transition the current experience you're having to move into other states of reality in a slower process where you change your vibrational resonance to align with cosmic resonance more than merely the earth third dimensional resonance. And this is the process you are involved in now, which means Many of you will never go through the process of death. You will simply slowly move into accelerated versions of who you are as you become more liquid crystalline bodies and move into rainbow bodies. That's a process you have chosen to do and you are achieving. That means that, like a child that suddenly arrives at adulthood and doesn't remember it happening overnight, but can look back at the various stages, you will suddenly one day look and say, look at the form that I am in, without any kind of traumatic stop game, start over again game happening to you. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does. Can you just take a second and explain cosmic resonance?
Cosmic resonance is an alignment with love. We mean true unconditional love, which is the highest force in the universe, while simultaneously listening to your heart and allowing the guidance of being in that alignment to speak to your heart through your intuition. This is cosmic resonance. You are in resonance with Source. You are in resonance with every other energy. You are in harmony. There is no conflict. There is no competition. There is no one-upmanship, trying to get ahead, trying to dominate. None of these things exist in cosmic resonance. There is a great feeling of we are all connected, and what I do for me, I do for you as well. What you do for you, you do for me as well. And through that understanding of interconnection, you reach a place of bringing cosmic resonance into your experience here in this third dimensional and multidimensional awareness.
I don't know if I have any other questions, because just you guys talking about that, I am feeling so good at this moment. So let me do ask this: to help people reach more of that, what would you advise or encourage?
We would encourage simple practices of breathe in love, breathe out trust, breathe in compassion, breathe out joy. Practice on this cornerstone of who you are, and then expand it to kindness, gratitude, cooperation, all the positive things that you can list. Breathe in cooperation, breathe out kindness. Breathe in gratitude, breathe out joy. Breathe in out all of these things rather than focusing upon this is wrong, how can I fix it? This is wrong, what needs to change? You absolutely have to pay attention to what needs to change, but you do not need to focus on the negative aspect. You need to simply take an assessment and then apply your positive energy and manifest something different through your intention, through your will, and through the actions and words you choose to engage in here in this dimension. That's the way to practice bringing more of this into your everyday life. And as you bring it into your everyday life expands from third dimensional life to multidimensional life. And the question about death evaporates completely. We would leave you with this thought. When you're in a higher state of awareness, all the colors of the rainbow become more vibrant, and colors you have not seen before on Earth become visible to you in moments when you're seeing flowers or looking at the sky or something that is different. You may see sparkle in a particular color of purple. You may see luminescence in a particular shade of blue as you gaze at the ocean. Sparkle and luminescence are two of the cosmic energies that make colors richer for you. And those come more fully when you're engaged with multidimensional awareness. So we say focus upon recognizing that all the colors of the rainbow are part of cosmic awareness here on this planet. They are not a political statement. They are a much larger picture. Focus on the concepts of your natural feeling states, of all these positive energies, and the beauty of natural rainbows, and keep your thoughts in the higher vibrational state. These are good practices to continue your evolution. We love you. Good always.
I would encourage for those that are watching and listening right now, if you can take a couple minutes right after listening to this and do a meditation, because there are so many meditations where you breathe in something positive and you let go of something negative. So to breathe in something positive and to breathe out something positive. Whoa. I'll use that word again. Yummy, juicy, wonderful. That was great. Thank you.
A little spin on that, Eden, which is so right. And think about if you're doing a practice of breathing something wonderful into yourself and then breathing out something negative. What a burden of toxicity you're placing on the earth and asking the earth to clean up for you. It's our responsibility to bring good and to breathe out good.
Okay, I think that is all we need. I think that's all we need. That was great, y'all. Thank you so much, as always. And let's just say goodbye. Bye, everybody. Thank you. Hang on with me.
Thank you for this time together.
Gratitude. I'm going to breathe in good stuff all day and exhale good stuff all day. All right. See you later. Bye. Y'all, find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Truth Social, as well as Rumble, BitChute, YouTube, plus a plethora of other audio directories like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So like, subscribe, do it all. See ya.